5 months ago, I traveled to Japan and made a video questioning where I fit in there, where I fit in my home country, and the world as a whole. 5 months later, and things have changed. Japan may have changed me, but so did ruminating with my return to America. And that's what this video is about. How my present thoughts and ideals contrast with the ones I had fresh off landing back in Chicago. I want to express these ideas of change, of new perspective, and of contentment, using myself as a subject for once and not an anime or a game. After all, I've always used media to talk about life. This time I'm just raising the mirror instead of looking through the glass. So I'll start with giving context to my situation, why I'm attached to Japan, what's my perspective on existence and life before exploring how places, ideas, and perspectives constantly transform in our minds. Once I've made peace with how I've worded that, I'll reevaluate just what exactly Japan changed within me and what that tells us about the ever-changing self that we are. So with that said, this is how Japan changed me. The expectation I had going to Japan was that I would experience some culture shock, some adaptation to the way life moves there. But what I wasn't prepared for was the reverse culture shock that lingered for months after returning. For context, I live in the outskirts of a moderate-sized town. The way of life here is car dependent, things are spread out, life moves in a very different fashion than Japan. Now, life here isn't per se a bad way of living, but what made it hard to readapt was my personal preference. I like walking places, I like nature trails, I like new things, and none of those are unique to Japan, but they were things that Japan checked all the boxes for me. That's what I believe gave it a slightly somber tone when I created my first reflection on my trip. I was coming from a position of longing for something that no longer was there. There are places within my home country with the very things I crave. It's just that I have to look outside where I am now. That's not to say I don't have a preference for Japan in general. There are many aspects I've spoken about before that I like specifically about their cities, their culture, but I have no interest in just glazing the nation for minutes on end. That's not the point of this video. What I'm getting at is that while I do have a soft spot for the life I lived for 3 weeks over there, it's not something I should allow to undermine my life here where I'm at in the present. For as much qualms as I have with the way my country sometimes operates, it is my home. And I deeply enjoy many things about it, which is why, in a sense, I'm so critical about it when I find something I disagree with. And I don't think it helped my headspace when returning that we're going through a rather rough patch right now. If anything, it amplified the desire I described of wanting to get away and leave everything behind, go somewhere I feel more at peace. Now, I still think about that idea, but the difference now is that I don't let it rule my reality. I think it was for maybe a month after returning that I couldn't shake the feeling of unhappiness. Gone was the train system that connected me to so much. Gone was the food I enjoyed every day. Gone was the countless streets unexplored, the mountains and parks unventured. Now I stared out my window at the corn and bean fields stretched before me, which are now covered in snow. But it's wrong of me to think negatively of this place, because what was making my presence so mute was my perspective of it. I craved something I didn't currently have, and instead of accepting that I chose to be here for now, I blamed the acres of land, the people who inhabit it, and the places constructed upon it for not being what I wanted them to be. It's rather ridiculous. There's no point in longing for something to change. Instead, you should pursue a place that has what you desire, that is what you desire. And it, for me, doesn't have to be Japan the way I would like it to be. It's obvious I crave something new, and that's my problem, not the place I grew up in. Like a fish outgrowing its bowl, it's time for a new tank, a fresh playground. This town isn't bad, it just doesn't suit the current me and what I want. But sometimes you can't move away. There's things that hold you in place. That's my reality. That's what tormented me for some time. The fact that I am and will be here. But by allowing that to make me unhappy, I'm forgetting one of the greatest lessons I've learned while in Japan, mono no aware, an idea that captures the impermanence of things like moments in the present. You will never be here doing what you're doing at this moment again. It passes and that time is gone. Just as my trip was impermanent, so will the time being here in my old town. Because at some point, I'll move on when the time comes. To where exactly is yet to be decided. There's excitement in that unknown, but also anxiety, uncertainty, and fear. But rather than allowing the emotions of transition to take over my present days, using the idea of mono no aware, I should allow that anxiety to give meaning to the impermanence of now. That alteration in how I think about things changed me, and I have Japan to thank for that. Life in America moves fast. Sometimes I feel like I'm just trying to check the boxes of success, prove I'm worthy of praise, of dignity, of existence, but really that's just my ego getting ahead of me. I do crave external validation. It's probably obvious from my career choice. But to return to my point, despite that lust for success, I don't want to live my life simply for the highlights, the milestones, the positives. I enjoy all of life, even the despair, the grief, the fear. And maybe that's why I talk about such complex inner worlds of characters. It's interesting to me. I know people in my life that don't like to talk about problems or conflict, but I think doing that makes life a little less colorful. Like you're only enjoying the primaries and haven't bothered to mix the paint into secondaries. While Japan as a whole has an aversion to conflict, I do get the feeling from my time there and the people I know from there that many sit with the whole of society, the city, and themselves, rather than pushing past it. Wabi-sabi captures this externally while Ikigai does internally. There's beauty in that imperfect structure, and its incompleteness, and its impermanence. How the weather has changed an object's color, chipped its shape. The imperfections carry stories, scars, memory. This is true for objects and structures as well as people. Yet with Ikigai, the value is found in one's perspective, shaping life that unfolds around you into something that aligns with your core self, what you love, what you're skilled at, what you can survive doing, what you can contribute to the world. So what exactly am I getting at? For some people, places may offer a sense of purpose or meaning to their world. It could be Italy, Spain, maybe it's even America for some people. These special places can allow people to find what's missing within, what they are lacking maybe culturally, socially, or ideally. For me, Japan filled that void. It gave me a fresh perspective, gave me a new way to view myself and the world. And that's the connection I have with it. That is what gave my journey there meaning, and my return a bittersweet emotion. But over time, I've come to realize that even if I'm not there, the influence it had on my life still exists. The ideas it introduced me to way before I went there still have their impact. I just need to remember. But I also need to be careful to not let my memory tint the truth. There are two Japans. Two Americas. There's the physical ones, the ones that actually exist that you can see on a map. And then there's the one within each of our heads, in my head and your head, constantly shifting and changing due to new information, changes in the self, what be it. That's the interesting thing about places. We never see them for what they really are, only what we want to see them as. And that's an ever-changing battle. To see things not as a single painting, but as a museum of canvases, sculptures, and works. The ever-changing idea of things is a result of us as people constantly changing our minds, how we live, what we live by, what we live with. None of this is stagnant, yet we're told to make decisions with the little knowledge we currently possess. All the time. The most difficult part for me seems to be grappling with the fact that there isn't a perfect path laid out for me. There's decisions and choices that will set me towards one way, while others will lead me to a complete other road. Unknowable things may cause me to deviate over time, yet still I attempt to plan the future like I have some control in the matter. There's this idea known as the hedonic treadmill that basically theorizes that whatever happens in life, happy or sad, we will return to this baseline level of happiness. And maybe that idea isn't unique just to that emotion. Maybe we have a baseline for everything, and by fearing the downfall and overly throwing myself at work because I don't wish to waste this opportunity, and just attempting to extend the rush one gets from seeing comments from viewers saying they enjoy my work before returning to that baseline level of satisfaction. Maybe that's what motivates my constantly shifting goalpost I stake into the ground just to pick up once reaching its location. The reality is that nothing I achieve will be so monumentally important that I should overly stress about my existence and my path. I'm just one of many specks of dust in the great galaxy. Life, after all, is not as serious as I sometimes make it out to be. I think that's the truth I always tend to land on. As I said, I love life. Its cruelties, the mundane, the absurdity, it all gives it flavor. The future is unpredictable, and while some may find suffering in the fact that you'll likely never reach the ideal of yourself you have in your mind, the rush of that pursuit is enough enjoyment for me. Finding peace with the fact that my anxieties are a product of my fear of failure and my fear of not measuring up to not expectations set by others, but mostly by myself, gave me more control over how I see things. It freed me from toiling in despair over the what ifs. Will I reach my goals? Will I measure up? The answer to that will one day find me. I don't need to waste my time searching for them. Repetitive actions push me forward, and the road my life inevitably ends on may look nothing like the ideal in my head, or maybe it'll look everything like it. Japan helped me find this perspective of peace with the chaos in my head, helped me construct this version of me that will only keep changing as I continue living. It isn't that Japan is some holy land that offers to free people of their everyday life or is a perfect utopia. It's far from that. It's just a place on this earth I've found a connection with. Nothing more, nothing less. In that sense, maybe Japan clarified something about myself that I wanted, my pace of life, a sense of being that I longed for. Maybe it exposed the tension within me to always pursue for more, but also secretly long for a simple and quiet life. I've always had this part of me who enjoys routine to give my life structure. It's part of why I can pump out videos on here, why I go to the gym 6 days a week like clockwork, why I feel so determined in my pursuits, because I know how to flow within the routine and become more efficient with the machine. But there's also that part of me that longs for adventure, for an escape from the routine, freedom of the self. Despite being so routine-based, I long for the freedom of chaos and possibility. But routine gives me the things I need. It allows me to pay the bills and to survive. To take that adventure is to risk that comfort. And sometimes you have to choose between. It's why I made the first video about Japan. I wanted to capture that side of me that longs for exploration. But I feel like my delivery lost that wonder. That essay read more as a somber tone than I wanted to reflect, because at the time of reading it out in front of the camera, I was still coming to terms with a shift in my identity. It's not too long ago that I started talking in front of a camera, and it's brought another layer to what I make. It made me have to think about what I'm presenting and trying to convey more, because now you see me along with the content or idea I'm discussing. I want there to be a face to the channel name, to what I say, so that everyone who watches can recognize that what I say is not an absolute. It's a perspective, an opinion. Anything I say are reflections and ideas I've hashed out in my head, typed onto a script, and now I'm reading before you. That being said, I feel like I've been going on a bit of a tangent, so let me correct this course. My trip to Japan exposed my dueling nature of self, polar sides of me that crave different worlds and ways of life. We all have this in us, this yin and yang of the self. Learning to balance the opposing forces and ideals within you is key to finding a fulfilling life. At least that's my perspective. I found the words to describe my tension because of Japan, because of my return. And so while I initially felt out of bounds, through wrestling with myself, I regained a little of it, at least enough to sort out my problems. I think you get where I'm going with this. Change is an unseverable part of life and of ourselves. We find connection and meaning in places, people, ideas that help us understand parts of ourselves, which in turn allows us to decide how to shape ourselves moving forward. So that leaves me with the question, the one I created the first Japan reflection on. What am I going to do about it? What will I choose to do, to be, to pursue? That's the hard question. Japan has taught me a lot about myself over the years, whether it meant to or not. The games I love, the shows I watch, the books I read, it influences what I consume and what I think in many ways. But it's not the full picture. There's many Western influences that I occasionally talk about, though obviously not as often given the focus of this channel. From Adventure Time, comic books, Star Wars, British rock, I've been molded by more than just Japan. I say this for the few of you who think I've made my entire being and life center around Japan. While it is an important keystone to the structure holding up my identity, it is one of many arches that do so. I love America despite the parts of it that make me grit my teeth and shake my fist, like an old Irish cattle farmer watching his herd break loose. That's obviously a very specific analogy. My life growing up in the States gave shape to who I am, for better and for worse. From Creed to Transformers to chasing friends through cornfields, the way of life here is something I smile just thinking about. The friendliness, the environment to compete and improve, the good hearts of people I've met here. I'm not ashamed to say that there's good here, and I'm not ashamed to admit there's bad as well. To acknowledge both in the world is to look at the whole of a picture and not fall obsessed with one specific detail. A narrow view is pointless. It makes interpretation pointless, and it would make my scripts one-sided and short. If I can't argue with myself about things, then no improvement would come about in how I picture the world. If I ever become too attached to one perception, then I would lose sight of the infinite that make up humanity. What I'm getting at is wherever I may be, whoever I may be, there's something to find enjoyment in, to smile about, to grieve, to toil over. America or Japan, I have reasons to be happy or sad. It's true that some places around the world may be worse or better than others, but to a given person, the only thing that's true is that this moment or this life is the one thing that is knowable and tangent. That's why no matter how good or bad we have it, we always find both joy and sorrow in the everyday. Maybe I'm just lucky to be able to say that. There's places where holding that mindset of optimism seems impossible, but I've seen stories of people doing so anyway. And so that at least gives me hope. So to answer the hard question, who do I want to be? I'd like to be someone aware of what he wants, but also appreciate the way things are now. I'm blessed in a way where I have options. So what do I want to pursue? For now, it's a place on this platform talking about life and the creative works that touch my heart, while also exploring more of this world around me and the way it takes shape in my head. What will I choose to do in the sense of what's next? Where will I go? To quote the last video, can I leave it all behind? It's undecided, but I have ideas. Sure, I want to go live in Japan for a while, dive deeper into a culture that has struck my interest, learn more about the way of life for people that create the media I'm constantly interpreting on this channel. But there's also a chance I don't go. And while that may be sad, there's also joy to be found in what's chosen instead. In the end, it's about how you approach the unknown. Do you avoid its stare, afraid of the possibilities it holds? Do you tell yourself you know more than the unknown? Or do you look into its eyes and welcome it into your life and thank it for showing you the endless potential you have? 5 months ago, I traveled to Japan and made a video questioning where I fit in. And the answer came to me that anywhere is the true answer. I was so caught up in one possibility that I lost sight of my present moment. I was so distraught by a potential future that I lost sight of why I was connected to Japan to begin with. I forgot that it wasn't the place that gave it meaning. It was I who created it. It doesn't matter where my path takes me. It's not all that important to mull over what may be left behind. What matters is that something in Japan reminded me of who I'm trying to become, and that feeling travels with me, no matter where I may go or how I may change.